Hey everybody, welcome back to On Stage, Off Stage. I'm your host, George Sapio, and this is episode number 171, November of 2023. Our guest this month is Kelly McBurnette-Andronicos. She is a playwright whose work explores various cultures and belief systems. Her full-length plays are about, as she says, women in events you've likely never heard of. She goes on to say that she's lived in a few different places, enjoys getting to know a place through its often obscure history, and she has at least one play for every region she's lived in. She was also a finalist in the 2023 Stowe Labs competition.
Well, so the way that worked, Stowe Labs worked with the New Mexico Film Commission, New Mexico Film Office, I think is what it's called, to kind of seek out and nurture some potential screenwriters in the state, because you may be aware that the state of New Mexico has this huge booming film industry here, and there's not a lot of people who actually live here. It's a pretty sparsely populated state, right? And of those people, not many of them do film or theater. So this is one of the ways in which the state of New Mexico is kind of trying to build up the talent base, so that they're not importing people from California, right, to do this. Yeah. So this was their one way to do that. So they got over 100 applications. I actually only made the top 20. And of those 20, they took 10. They called us the 20, the finalists, and then I'm not sure what they called the 10, but I didn't make the top cut of 10. I think I may have been the only playwright, and not any of them. Most of the other people that I could tell were all screenwriters and or some kind of filmmaker, and I have zero experience in that. So for whatever reason, I didn't make the top 10, but I did make the top 20 finalists.
Well, I would call that a serious lack of taste on their part.
I appreciate your vote of confidence. And you know how subjective all of these things are.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I do. Yes.
I mean, I was sad for 5 minutes and then was like, okay.
Yeah.
Because what that meant actually, had I gotten to that program, it was a pretty intensive commitment. And what it was going to mean was that I was going to have to sideline this other play I've been working on for a long time. And my goal for this play is to finish it. It doesn't even have to be good. It just has to be finished. And so I knew that was going to derail that. And so that also kind of made me sad. It's like, well, if I get into this program, I won't get to finish this play called Maria Rasputin in Spangled Land. And
I love it. Oh my God, I love it.
So,
I want to play Rasputin.
So the upside is I'm still working on that play, and when I get off the interview with you, I'm going to go back to writing it.
Okay, well, I'll try and make this as fast as possible then. Thank you very much for being here. And you said something I wrote down I was going to ask you later. It doesn't have to be good. It has to be finished. I don't necessarily hear that a lot from writers. How did you get to that point? I mean, what vicissitudes and vagaries in life brought you to this little plateau where that actually spoke to you?
So back when I lived in Ithaca, which is how I know
Ithaca, New York, yes.
Shout out. I was in the Ithaca Shakespeare Company, and I was had low seniority in the ranks there for women's roles in Shakespeare, of which there are very few, as you know.
Yeah, but they're all choice, aren't they? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I did get some great roles. I loved doing that. I loved doing that while I did it. But as I got older, I realized I had harder and harder time remembering lines, especially Shakespeare. It's not like you can just wing it.
You could. Who in the audience is going to know anyway, really?
I can't wing I can't wing Shakespeare. And realized I was actually an introvert and hated being on stage. And I'm a morning person and I hated being out after dark. And so I was like, I hate being on stage. This is terrible. So I started writing, or I decided I was going to be a writer. I just decided I'm going to be a writer. Then I had to like come up with something to write. So I decided I was either going to write a novel or a play. And it came down to, well, I think it'll be easier to write a 60-page play than a 400-page novel. And where I got those page numbers, I have no idea.
Well, yeah.
But of course, that was foolish because it's not. And so I wrote my first play, and my only goal for it was to finish it. It didn't have to. I mean, I wanted it to be good. I didn't think it would be good. And apparently it's not very good because it's gone nowhere. I still believe in that play, and I'm going to come back to it later.
I've been rewriting my first play since 1994.
Great. That makes me feel not good about it at all.
No. It's the one play I keep going back to in between all the other ones that I've done in the meantime.
I feel like I didn't do it justice. Is that how you feel about it?
No,
I didn't do the subject justice.
First plays are like, I don't know. I had a friend of mine say, first plays are like your first kid. You're going to completely screw them up. Kids 2, 3, and 4, you've already learned what not to do. So they stand a chance of staying out of jail.
Yeah.
Right. Writing is a process, and writing is like practice. It's like being a musician. You know, writing your first song is okay, but you only bring that out on special occasions.
Yeah. So this is my first child, and she's like a spinster that still lives here at home. But the other children have moved on. And the funny thing is that I couldn't decide which play I was going to write when I decided to write a play. Was it going to be about this prophet from upstate New York who was androgynous and was raised from the dead, which is what I ended up writing about? Or was it going to be about the axe murderer, moonshiner story that happened in my hometown? So I did the prophet one. The second play I wrote was To Tread Among Serpents, which was the one that, grew up and did great things and left the house and was off Broadway last year. So who knows if I had switched those, if I would have wrecked, the one about the moonshine snake handler.
That's a question for late at night. It really is. It's just something to keep you going until you fall asleep.
Right. So anyway, coming back to your original question, which was, I had a pretty intense job at Purdue University for the last 4 years. And so it was mentally exhausting. And so I started writing Maria Rasputin in Spangleland, which is the true story of Rasputin's daughter and how she ends up in a circus in rural Indiana in a bear act in which, unsurprisingly, she gets mauled.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been writing this play. I mean, I did, it was one of those things where I woke up and said, I'm going to write a play about the circus, which is, you might as well say, I'm going to write a play about Europe. And it took me a lot of circling around to find the story there. And so I've been working on it for several years now, which is unlike me. And so that's why my goal is to just finish it. And it's a bizarre play.
That makes perfect sense, because some plays take longer than others. And the longer you sit with one, the more you invest your time, creativity, life into it. And the more you think in the back of your head, oh my God, I really want this to not suck. And then part of you is like, just let me finish it. Just let me finish it. And then I can, go change my clothes and take a shower.
Right. Well, see, so I've written some 10-minute plays, in the interim, but I haven't finished a full-length play since, for like probably 4 or 5 years ago, which I was churning them out once a year.
Sure.
Before that, with 10 minutes, in between, I feel very guilty about it.
No, don't. We go in cycles. Full-length plays are bears. You live with them. They move in. They take over your life. They dominate the conversation at the dinner table. They're really obnoxious until you can get them up and get them out of the house. But in the meantime, in between, because they're so monstrous.
Yeah.
You and I are similar. I write a big old full-length play, and then I think I can't do this again. I got to write something shorter. I'm just going to, fly off and write something that community theaters will do that has, little substance and a lot of comedy and something like that.
Yes.
But I think we both live for these giant plays, and some of the ones you've written are so full of meaning and content, and to tread with serpents is one. It's I read that in one sitting. Poison Squad of Whispering Women. I mean, where did that come from? It's historical, and those have their own ghosts to deal with. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Just finish the damn thing, and we'll make it good later.
Exactly. We'll fix it later.
Anybody who says to me, "Well, I finished my plays right there, and they're just good to go," and I'm like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
All right, this is my table. Go sit somewhere else. You wrote in your NPX statement, which I love. It's one of my favorite NPX statements. Those who share a fascination, you write about those who share a fascination with the intersection of whimsy and the disturbing. And that spoke to me because I live for dark comedies. I love to laugh at things that other people are like, oh my goodness, look, but we see the humor in this. And yes, we're probably a little disturbed, but that's fine. What does it take to pull something like that out of the hat?
Well, I think I retro-engineered that statement. I think I was so first of all, here's an admission. I was writing serious plays that people laughed at. So right. I didn't know they were dark comedies. I was dead serious about these things.
So what was that revelation like? All of a sudden, people are laughing at your air quotes, serious work here. How did you come around to this, what looks to be a fully adult, mature realization and compromise with, with the way your work has turned out and the way the audiences have adjusted to it or the way they've received it?
I mean, I guess when I started seeing it through other people's eyes, I thought, oh, I guess that is funny. I mean, the women's Ku Klux Klan, that's kind of funny. So I think it's just my way of dealing with hard subjects. I grew up in the Deep South, which is just, of course, laden with Gothicism, and I grew up in cemeteries. Basically, I mean, we're always going to the cemetery to put flowers on somebody's grave. Sure. And the cemeteries were the most beautiful places in town because, they had blooming magnolias and azaleas. And I think that's where this kind of Gothic aesthetic took root. I don't think I ever had a choice. I think it's just part of how I was brought up. But at the same time, I think there was a lot of death in my life as a child, and I've found it both fascinating. I was kind of wrangling with heavy subjects as a small kid, and I think just laughing at it is. I mean, as they say, you're either going to laugh or cry at it, so might as well laugh at it.
Yeah, it's a defense mechanism, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
but writing a serious drama here that is, meant to be taken with all sorts of bad, horrible feelings gets a little draining after a while. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the writers that I've read and a lot of the writers that I've talked to, if you don't throw some comedy in there, if you don't throw something in to leaven this, it's going to be deadly. And the tone of the piece, right, which is depressing, which is nihilistic, which is, nothing good is going to come of this, heightens the comedy to a point where the audiences have been dying for just a little bit of relief. And oddly enough, that's a lot of the stuff that the audiences remember later. Was that joke, was that weird twist where you sit there and go, whoa, did not see that coming. That was kind of funny. and they walk out, and it allows you to hit them with another 20 minutes of content.
Buys you some time.
Yeah, it does buy you some time, but what it does is it makes the play more palatable. It doesn't have to be, clowns running around in red noses and funny shoes, but it has to be something that lightens the mood just for a little bit and allows you to breathe. Mm-hmm. Right? And the best dramas are those that can be called dark comedies, or the ones that do have comedic elements, because you can keep the audience going twice as long. But
yeah, I don't know that I could write a serious, I did try. I tried to write a serious play, and apparently I couldn't do it because people just laughed at it. So I'm a failure, George.
No. That's not a failure. That is so not a failure. You've written a beautiful dark comedy. Just look at it that way.
It was accidental, but
how many people have come up to you after a workshop or after a play and said, I really like the way you did this, and you sit there and go, I did that? Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Well,
yes.
It just came to me one day. I didn't think much of it. Blah, blah, and you get all humble and that sort of thing, and they look at you like you're a little god.
Exactly. I'm so glad that you understand me. I don't engineer any of these things. They just come out this way.
Well, your subconscious does, I believe,
I'm just not that smart. It's the thing.
Well, if you're pulling this stuff out and slapping it on the paper, yeah, I guess you would. No, you get caught in the plays and the plays get caught in you. Once you get into something, you start living with it, you become siblings, you become symbiotic, and you can't do anything without repercussions happening in the play. And the play sometimes takes over. I mean, how many times have you sat there and looked at what you've just written and go, I really wasn't planning to go there, but obviously that's where they want to go.
Yes. Yeah. I have this trick I do with my characters. First of all, some of the best advice that was ever given to me as a writer was give yourself permission to write badly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But in order to do that, I have to take it off the page and put it on a separate page. Like I can't sully my brilliant script.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
with this experimentation over here. So I take it off the page and I let them kind of run around and do what they want and see if there's anything useful there. And almost always there is. And it's almost always something totally shocking, surprising you didn't see coming. Mm-hmm. And you had no idea they were going to say that. And now you got to roll with it because that's what they said. And then you transfer it back to your script.
Well, it's a journey. You have to go here, there, and there to get to this place. Mm-hmm. All right. You just can't make the leap and go from point A to point X. You've got to go through G, H, M, whatever.
Right.
And that's the process.
I like to think about, in my full-length plays, I like to think about how I get all of my characters stranded all over town at intermission. And, I have to have them all back at the same place by 6:00 at the end of the play. So how am I going to do, I scatter them and then how do I get them back?
That's a nice way of thinking about it. Yeah. You wrote, my full-length plays are about women and events you've likely never heard of. You do a lot of historically based stuff. And that's its own completely different animal than just writing something that comes out of, the top of your head, or writing something modern that's a part of a culture that you're so familiar with and or obsessed with, right? You reach out and you find things that the rest of us didn't know about. Women whispering about the Klan and other things. What's your process for doing this kind of historical research? Do you enjoy it? Is it a bear? How long do you spend? It's not like you're just thinking this stuff up and popping it down on the page. This takes work.
Well, it's easier for me because it's a cheat, right? Like I don't have to rely on my own imagination, which I think must be lacking. I don't have, so I go find some other story to write.
Somebody's already written the play for you.
Yes. And I just have to take some facts and I arrange them in such a way that tells a story.
That's exactly what I think when I'm doing my own historical plays. Like, this is easy. No, it's not. I still have 12 weeks of research to do.
So I love the research part. I usually limit myself to about 9 months of reading historical material.
Yeah.
And sometimes you go down these rabbit holes and it may or may not be useful. So that takes some time. And I'm a very slow reader, very, very slow. So it takes me a while, but it's about 9 months. I have to cut myself off or I would just stay there forever. Yeah. And so there was a while there where I thought, I have to have something to show for all of this reading I've done on this subject. And so that was another reason why I started writing plays is like, well, I spent all this, I wasted all this time reading these books. So I better have some product to show at the very end of it. So I, write a play out of that. But the research part is the easy part for me. The reading and all of that, that's easy. And I'd stay there forever. Like I said, it's just the disciplined part of putting it into some kind of story on page that's hard.
Yeah. I always have a battle between the historian and the playwright. Because the historian screams at me, this is important, it needs to be in there. And the playwright is like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. We're going to, yeah.
Yeah. And then I forget, do you forget, like you read all of these facts and then you write the play and then on the other side, you start thinking about what's true and not true. I can never remember what's true and not true.
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. It's... It becomes a little nebulous. Yeah. My first historical play, I had 3 years of research. It was about Richard III. And I just kept going. I read 36 books on this guy. And half of them were pro-Richard, half of them were... talk about rabbit holes. This rabbit hole went to China. And I told myself, I can't do this again. I don't have that much time left in my life. I need to do a lot of things, not just this one thing. But yeah, you can get wrapped up and completely absorbed and trying to translate the truth of a situation while not exactly translating the literal truth of what happened.
Right.
Yeah, that's
and how do you and why is it relevant now? Why are we telling this story now? And I have to find some contemporary relevance to it.
Yeah,
which is what I find interesting.
Things don't change that much.
Things don't change at all.
People
don't change.
We get a little bit further in some social, cultural, gender issue, and then bang, 2 steps back. That whole thing about you've come a long way, baby. No, you haven't.
Right.
All right. Take a good look at this. You haven't.
Yes.
And that
but both are true, right? I would argue both are true at the same time.
The journey's been long. Where have you gotten?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because when I was writing the play about the Women's Clan of Indiana, just the things that would come out of these women's mouths, and these are your neighbors and your aunts and your cousins and these were just your normal people at the time.
Right. Yeah.
These were this was you in the 1920s. This is what you would have been saying, it's astounding to me that was just a lot. That was some fertile ground to till in Indiana.
But it's fascinating.
That's the other thing I do as part of my process. Wherever I live, I've surrounded quite a bit. I generally will write a play about some historical thing I found there.
I like that idea. I like that a lot. Yeah.
It's a formula.
No, but you come up with some very, very interesting Hall of Final Ruin, my God. Tread Among Serpents, I read that, like I said, in one go. I just could not let that go. And I kept thinking, what brought you to this? How did this issue, get to you? And it's one of those questions that people ask playwrights, and the playwrights go, "Oh, don't ask me where I get my ideas from. Please don't do that."
I love to talk about where I got that story. To Tread Among Serpents happened in my hometown, so I grew up with that story as a kid. Talk about the Southern Gothic backdrop to everything I write.
Yeah.
And doing so, just for your audience, for the context, this woman was convicted of a double murder in which she chopped up these two guys and threw them out over 75 miles of rural country roads in Alabama. When I was doing the research for this, I found a map of where they found all the body parts. And I learned that they found an arm in my yard.
Wow.
In the house where I grew up. Of course, this was in the 50s before I was even born, and I didn't live there, but I lived there ultimately and found out that's my house. So, like, no wonder I had a close relationship to this story.
Oh my God. You didn't walk around the house looking for other body parts, did you?
No, because I had long moved away, and that was when I was a child. But I remember when I was 6 or 7 years old, this neighbor of mine came up to my mom. We were in the car, and she rolled down the window, and he's like, "Did you hear? Viola Heights out of jail?" And everyone was like, and I was like, "What? Who? What? Who's that, Mama?" So that's how I know that story.
That's to have it so directly affect, instead of just like being interesting, I'm going to write about this. It's like, no. Yeah, body parts were found in my yard. Which is a great thing to come up with at a Q&A. It's just toss that off. It's like, oh yeah, they found bits and pieces in my book.
And everybody, I interviewed a lot of people back there. I interviewed the original coroner when I was writing that play, and he had been on the job for 6 weeks, and that was his first big case. It was probably his only big case in this part of Alabama.
Sure.
But he was like 99 when I talked to him then, and he remembered it very well.
I'll bet he did. Yeah, it's better than pulling over drunks and handling domestic disputes and things. No, there were body parts. Yep.
Yep.
The best drama comes from the worst decisions. It really does. Oh
yeah. That's well put.
I didn't think of that, but I'm going to claim it. Okay. You also wrote, for the last 13 years, you've been reading the top 100 novels, and you're up to like number 70 something. This is the single most important influence on my playwriting. And I've got a couple of questions for this one. Whose top 100 novels? Where did that particular list come from? All right, because I want to know what you're basing this on. What's your favorite? And which one has affected you the most?
Ooh, okay. So your first question about whose list, that's a very good question, because I usually, when I talk about this, I always preface it with, all of these lists, it depends on who's putting them out, but basically there are many, many lists of the top 100 novels, but there's 85% crossover in any of them. So I just found a list when I was looking at list, and I chose one that I had already read 17 books from. You think about that now, it's like, I thought I was pretty well read. I'd only read 17 of this 100 novels.
In the U.S., that is well read.
Sadly, I think you're right. And so I chose that list, and now I don't even remember what it was called. I think it may have been the American Library Association or similar, right? So that's the list I started with. I think it's impossible to choose a favorite book, but one that really made an impression on me was Lolita by Nabokov. Really? Yes.
Okay, and you just froze.
Into having empathy for Humbert, this horrible pedophile.
Right, yeah.
And I'm reading it, and I was like, I hate you for this. And so I really gnawed on that for a long time. Like, how can he make me have so much empathy and sympathy for him? How is that possible? And I chewed on that for a really long time. And actually, it came out in A Poison Squad of Whispering Women, where I wanted to see, can I do this too? Can I make you, the reader and or audience member, feel some empathy for these horribly flawed women? who might be your aunt or your neighbor or your cousin, like I said,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Can I get you there? That was I always give myself some challenge or some skill that I want to learn with every play I write. And in that one, it was just the test of can you see where they're coming from, as abhorrent as it is?
Exactly. Sympathetic antagonist. I don't like what he did, but I understand why she did it.
Yes.
That's
And so
yeah.
that's why Lolita is, I think, the one that I pitch as my favorite.
Okay. Honestly, that if I had seen the entire list, I would have put that one near the bottom because the craft of the writing is brilliant, yes, but the story itself is just so lazy. It's horrible. It's like icky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Although, at the time, because Nabokov is also from Ithaca. I mean, not from Ithaca, he's from Russia. He lived in Ithaca. And so when I would take the bus to Cornell, we'd pass by one of his 3 houses. Yeah. And I was like, is that where he was writing? So.
Yeah, it's still it's icky. Okay.
Yes, granted, icky.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got about 30 to go. Good luck with that.
I'm reading War and Peace right now. So, check in with me in about 3 years.
Okay. Yeah, no, good enough. That's yeah. If you can keep the names straight, you get a PhD just for finishing the book. It
took me to about page 350 to go, okay, I think I understand who is who. Well, I had printouts and everything, family charts and
the diminutives, the patronymics, and all that. It's just, who are they? Oh, it's this. Wait, that guy. No. Okay. Doorstop. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
One last question, then I'm gonna let you go. Okay. What's your advice for new playwrights? What's your advice for new women playwrights? Women come up to you and say, I want to be a playwright. What should I know? What should I look out for?
I would say, first of all, write what you want. Write what you want to write about. And if you're lucky, maybe some people want to see it. But that's the best way to bring a rich experience to your play is to write something that you want to write about that's important to you. I would also say, just from a kind of not professional, but maybe a just technical standpoint, that don't be in a rush to get published. Publishing does not a lot for you. I have one published play. I've not tried to publish others. If some publisher wants to come to me, then fine. But right now, the opportunities for my plays are limited enough, whereas if they are published, I can't submit them to most places. So I don't see the point in publishing a play because I'm not famous, right? If I were famous, that would be different.
Oh, sure.
And I don't have an agent. I am my own agent. And so I think people come to playwriting thinking the point is to get published and the point is to get an agent, when I think that really doesn't help at all. In fact, could hold you back.
Well, I think there's a serious spillover from the film business and screenwriting. They think, well, if you write something that other people are going to act out, you need an agent and you need to get published, or you need to. They think the playwrights need the same things that screenwriters do.
Right.
And that's not really true. I mean, I've never had an agent, and I've had 2 plays published, and I still need to do all the work myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You're going to be stuck doing that anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So that would be my advice for anybody.
Good enough. We'll run with that and write our way to fame and fortune. And don't forget, give yourself permission to write badly.
Write badly.
Yeah, because that will allow you to sleep at night and you'll feel good about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly McBurnette-Andronicos, thank you so much for being here. This has been so much fun, and it's so good to see you again after so long.
I know. Can I just say one thing though, George?
No. No, all right, go ahead.
You're going to want to hear this.
Yeah.
I think you're the first living playwright. You and Judith Pratt are the first living playwrights I ever met. So I think you had a lot to do with.
Who are the dead ones?
and Wolf's Mouth had a great influence on me becoming a playwright.
Well, good. I'm glad. Yeah, it was a good experience, and you put me in illustrious company. I love Judith's work. I've never thought about corn the same way.
Right, exactly. You never will again.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it was a good experience, and I'm really glad to have met you. So,
yes.
Thank you so much. Be well. Take care, and please keep writing.
Will do, George. Thank you.
Hey kids, thanks for listening to Onstage Offstage. Onstage Offstage is produced monthly, and all of our shows can be found at onstageoffstage.org and also on iTunes and Spotify. If you enjoy what we do, please recommend us to your friends. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at OnOffStage. And if you are a theater artist with an upcoming project of interest or know of someone in the theater who'd make some seriously good chat, by all means, send us a note at info@onstageoffstage.org. I'm George Sapio. Thank you once again for listening. And please, stay safe, be careful, not only for yourself, but for those with whom we all share this rock. And as always, happy theatering to all of you.